Hello and welcome to a live stream edition of the Big D podcast. Before we really get started, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can not only see this interview, but see my interview with FGCU swim coach Dave Rollins and all my latest and greatest content. So, joining us for his weekly contributions is the most relieved Miami Dolphin fan I know, my buddy Alex. Alex, what was your heart rate doing in the game yesterday?
Man, I'll tell you what, that was it's an interesting game, man. First of all, nice to be back, Dylan. Always nice to be on here with you. Yeah, it was a game, that's for sure. Times looked really great, times looked not so great. Couple good drives there. Heart rate was definitely beaten. It looked like from our first offensive drive, we were just going to control that whole game. But it's not necessarily how the NFL works, especially in a in-division game. So it's we got the dub at the end of the day, and that's really all that matters. Number one in the AFC East, only 1-0 team in the AFC East. So it's a good week to be a Miami Dolphins fan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, do you remember the last time Miami won its opener?
Oh, we've talked about this before. It's been a couple years, I know. We talked about this on a podcast a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember, but I know we got it this year. Tua is 2-0 as a starter against the New England Patriots, and Brian Flores is now 3-2 against his former mentor Bill Belichick. Two of those wins coming in New England. So seems like it's a turn in the times, and we finally have a competitive AFC East again. So it's going to be a very exciting season, to say the least.
Yeah, well, going into the game, did you feel confident Miami would win?
I did. I felt very confident. I will say my confidence went less and less as the game went on. Mac Jones looked a lot better than I expected him to be. Obviously, I mean, it was a lot of dink and dunk. They didn't really let him loose too often. I think his longest pass was that wheel route to the back on the right sideline. At least that I can remember that they completed. But I was definitely very confident. Obviously, them not having Stephon Gilmore was a big loss for their defensive secondary. And I've just been very confident in the offseason that the Dolphins have had. And but like I said, Mac Jones looked good. I think Patriots fans should be excited. I think they've got a good one there. And he's learning under Bill Belichick, which it's got to be a plus for any young quarterback to be learning under a mind like that. So I think Patriots fans do have a lot to be excited for. Fortunately, they weren't too excited by the end of that game yesterday. But confidence was high going into the game. Some pluses, some minuses, but I think the confidence will continue to be high throughout the season, especially next week going into Buffalo. And I think the Dolphins are going to be a strong contender this year.
Yeah, it was weird thinking back to that game because Miami's first two possessions of each half went very well. We scored the touchdown in the first half, and then you scored the touchdown early in the second half. Tua ran in from 3 yards, and then Jalen Warner caught a 3-yard pass from Tua early in the second half.
Yeah, it was definitely nice to see. I mean, obviously, those first drives of the half are pretty scripted. I think most NFL teams pretty much have a blueprint of what they want to do when they start each half. At least a certain number of plays lined up. But it was nice to see them execute it. Unfortunately, I wish they would have executed a little bit better on the following drives of those halves. It seems like those blueprinted drives, we really were able to run those well and run those successfully. But the drives were great. It was great seeing Tua. I mean that play action boot where he just ran around the right edge and practically walked into the end zone. It was a great play design. It's nice to see him get in the end zone. Nice to see him be the guy who scores our first touchdown of the year. He's obviously had a fair share of criticism throughout the offseason in his short NFL career. And then, I mean, Jalen Waddle, what more can you ask for? Your first round draft pick, wide receiver, scoring a touchdown on his NFL debut. So, like I said, it was definitely a lot of pluses for the Dolphins this week. A couple minuses, but that's all stuff we can work on.
Yeah, Alabama quarterback to Alabama wide receiver. I bet that made Nick Saban happy.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's Nick Saban in Alabama are known for churning out NFL prospects. Quarterback position, not so much, but it looks like Nick Saban has two guys that might be able to wipe that Alabama quarterback slate a little clean when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, speaking of Alabama quarterbacks, obviously Tua is Miami's guy. I mean, how did you think he played yesterday? Because yeah, if you look at it number wise, 16-27, 202 yards, one passing touchdown, one rushing touchdown. But I don't know if you saw the interception. It might have been the worst throw of the afternoon. Except the one Aaron Rodgers threw, but we'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah, I think overall he had a good game. The offensive line did not help him. The offensive line was pretty much putting defensive bodies in his face throughout the entire game. Normally he performs well under the blitz. He was I think he had the best stats in the NFL for quarterbacks performing in blitz circumstances last season. But with the offensive line getting a little manhandled, we've had some injury problems. We had Austin Jackson hit the COVID list at the beginning of the week, so a little bit of a mix up there on the offensive line. I don't put it all on Tua. Obviously, the interception was terrible. It was a bad throw. He said after the game in the presser that he was trying to throw it away. I mean, if that's the case, you got to throw that 3 rows deep in the stands. But it was an unfortunate play. It's something that he can. But the good news is that's an easy mistake to learn from. Obviously, you're not going to want to just chuck the ball up. It was 3rd down, so I get trying to make something happen. But with the ball and with the ball at that position on the field and that close of a ball game with an in-division rival, you got to just chuck that ball deep into the stands. You can't try and make something happen there when he has a defensive player 2 inches from taking his head off. So. Obviously the interception was not something we enjoyed seeing, but definitely correctable, definitely fixable, definitely something he will most likely never do again, at least I hope. But other than that, I think he played good. He's been knocked on a little bit in the past for his deep ball. He had a beautiful deep pass to Jalen Waddle down the left sideline. He had a beautiful deep pass to Devontae Parker, who did a great job of getting his toes tapped to get that ball. I think it was a 30-yard completion down the right sideline. Yeah. Would have liked to see a little bit more from Mike Gesicki. I think it went without a catch the entire day. 3 targets, I believe. But
2 targets, no catches for Gesicki.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he wants to. Waddle saw a lot of work. You want to try out the new toys, and Devontae Parker just seemed like he had J.C. Jackson's number a little bit yesterday. So I think we'll see more of Gesicki in the future. I guess his number wasn't quite called on much today, but I think that'll change coming up in the next coming weeks. But overall, solid performance from Tua. Stuff to work on, stuff to improve on, stuff to learn from. But I think it's a good first week of the season.
And then you look at it, I mean, obviously, battle of Alabama quarterbacks. I think most would argue Mac Jones outplayed Tua. 29-39, 281, touchdown, 75.1 QBR. But to me, the main difference was not Miami's offense, but as usual, Miami's defense, because you look at it, New England moved the ball on you a little more. 200, almost 400 yards of offense, 125 on the ground, 268 through the air. But the big numbers to me are 1, Miami was 2 for 2 in the red zone. New England went 1 for 4.
Correct. I mean, that was gonna be one of my next points, is that the red zone was the defining factor of the game. If you watch the game, it's pretty easy to determine that. I mean, like you said, Miami 2 of 2 with 2 touchdowns, New England 1 of 4. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. If you can't punch the ball, and that leads me to another point where when you say Mac Jones outplayed Tua, yeah, he probably did look better than Tua yesterday. However, a lot of those passes were underneath. A lot of those passes were dink and dunks. We were kind of giving them those underneath pass plays, and you just got to make a play at that point. Where credit to the New England skill players, they made some guys miss and they got some chunks of yardage. But I don't think Bill Belichick really gave Mac Jones the reins. I don't think he let him take too many chances or try and make something happen. It seemed like he was kind of limiting his arsenal, if you will. But it's the NFL. He's a rookie. I mean, it's his first game. You got to kind of play it. I guess Bill Belichick thought playing it safe was the way to go, but you can't win football games playing it safe. I think Mac Jones had better protection throughout the entire game, and he did throw well under distress. I mean, he did have a couple of Dolphins players in his face throughout a large portion of the game, and he seemed to be able to get the ball out of there and on target for the most part. But I think Tua took some more chances. Some of them paid off. Obviously, the one big one didn't. I don't think Mac Jones took too many chances. And you can dink and dunk it all around the field, all across the field. But when you get to the red zone, you can't dink and dunk it anymore. And I think that's kind of what shot New England in the foot, was not being able to take that chance. So obviously, Xavier Howard, I got to give a big shout out to him. People are questioning whether Miami should pay him or not. You pay your best player on your team. Simple as that. He's on the team to make plays. He's on the team to win football games, and he's on the team to get to give the ball to the offense, and that's exactly what he did when it counted. And Xavier Howard was probably obviously play of the game with that forced fumble, and very happy, and I'm sure all Miami Dolphin fans are very happy to see Xavier Howard wear an aqua and orange this year.
I'm just saying, I think Xavier Howard, I think Tua owes Xavier Howard a beer after what he did in stripping Damian Harris on that last drive.
Yeah, great players make great plays. That's why they're in the team. That's what they do. And even so, with the way New England was converting in the red zone, even if he doesn't force that fumble, I still think we hold them to a field goal. And I think Tua goes down. We've got one of the best long range kickers in the NFL. I think if they kick that field goal and gave us a minute 15, minute and a half left, I still think Miami drives down and gets at least a field goal opportunity to win that game. And I think Jason Sanders would put that through. Still giving credit to Xavier Howard, but I'm confident in our ability to go about 40, 50 yards if we needed to and get in Jason Sanders' range, which doesn't have to be that far down the field.
Yeah, if you just put him on the field, Jason Sanders could kick it from like 60 yards or so.
Yeah. Fortunately, we didn't have to worry about that yesterday, but it's nice to know we've got him. But I think enough talking about the successes of my team. I think speaking of Mac Jones, rookie quarterback in his first game, there was another rookie quarterback who played his first game of his NFL career. You're looking a little red, Dylan. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. I didn't quite see much of the game. How did Trevor Lawrence do yesterday, buddy?
Hey, I went for a run this morning. What are you talking about?
Look, I mean, Jacksonville, obviously, disappointing first week of the season. You go down to an in-division rival to the Texans, 37-21. Give me your reaction from the game. What did you like? What did you not like? There's probably more you didn't like than you liked, but what are your takeaways from week one?
Here's what I call yesterday's game: good, bad, and ugly. Good. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine. I'm not worried about the 3 interceptions. Peyton Manning threw 3 interceptions in his NFL debut. Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine.
Yeah.
But the Jaguars have got a lot of work to do. I mean, yesterday was embarrassing. You should not lose the Houston freaking Texans. Crying out loud. I mean, yesterday was pitiful. I mean, the Houston Texans ran for 160 yards. 160 yards. And by the way, did you see Houston's backfield yesterday? I think it was Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay, and David Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I saw Houston as my worst team in the league this year.
I did too.
And after yesterday. Tyrod Taylor, I will give credit to Tyrod Taylor because when he was in Buffalo, Miami's always been terrible against defending mobile quarterbacks, but Tyrod Taylor would tear it up every single time he played Miami. He's a decent little quarterback. He's better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. But
he might be better than that quarterback in New York right now. And I don't mean Zach Wilson. I mean the other quarterback in New York.
Yeah, Daniel Jones. I think the Giants might be needed and look somewhere else for the future on that one.
Maybe Chapel Hill or that Norman, Oklahoma, but we'll save that.
Yeah, I will say this about Jacksonville yesterday. To your point about Trevor Lawrence being fine, I think you're right about that. I don't think that this is a weird drowning and there's no chance of survival situation for Jacksonville. It might be an ugly year. It probably will be an ugly year, but he will get better. He will improve throughout this season alone. But I think especially going into the next season, the next couple of seasons, I do think you're right. I think he will be fine. And honestly, I've never been a big fan of college coaches coming to the NFL game, and it just doesn't seem like it's such a completely different universe, college football versus the NFL. I obviously used to be a big Urban Meyer fan growing up as a Gators fan. And I was definitely really interested to see how he handled Trevor Lawrence in this week 1 opener. And I have to say, I respect Urban Meyer the way he played Trevor Lawrence almost a little bit more than the way Bill Belichick played Mac Jones yesterday. Because like I said in the last segment, Mac Jones just played it safe. It seemed like they didn't want him to take any chances. Obviously, you're going up against a great secondary in Miami. You probably don't want to take those chances. But at least with Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars, they let Trevor Lawrence throw the ball. You throw 3 interceptions, that sucks. You never want to see that. But at least you're taking those chances downfield. You're giving him an opportunity to learn as the game goes on. And he still threw 3 touchdown passes. That touchdown, I think it was the third one. That beautiful dart down the right sideline. That was a great pass. And the mistakes, obviously, he's going to learn from the mistakes. Obviously, they're going to work on in film sessions and a practice. But just the fact that Urban Meyer allowed him to kind of sling the ball around and take those chances and learn as you're playing, I think is a good strategy to handle him. And like you said, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine. James Robinson having the ball bounce straight off his fingertips on a easy little dump off pass, that might be something you got to work on a little bit harder in practice, I think.
Let's just say this: James Robinson probably costs a few people not just money, but their fantasy week 1 with his 5 carries for 25 yards yesterday and 3 catches for 29 yards. So for my math, that would be 54 total yards. And then if you've got PPR scoring, that would either be 6.9 or 8.4 points. Oops.
Yeah. I've got a couple of shares of James Robinson, so I was not too happy about that stat line myself.
Let's just say I was using James Robinson on more than one DFS team yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely, and the scariest part about that is they're playing the Houston Texans. It's not like they're playing the Washington football team with Chase Young on the other side, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Ndamukong Suh on the other side.
Or the LA Rams with Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald, right? You're not playing a powerhouse juggernaut team. And I think that's the biggest concern for the Jaguars right now. But I think, and I don't necessarily speak for Jaguars fans. Obviously you would have a little bit more of that privilege than me, but this season's gotta seem as an experimental trial, see what we've got with these guys, maybe not necessarily worry about how many wins you get this season, but more worry about the performance of the team and trying to get better as a franchise for the future. Because if you're letting the Houston Texans drop 37 points on you, and you can't keep up with that team, it might be time to start thinking about what we can do to better, just to get our players acclimated and in tune with what we're trying to run as a Jaguars organization. And maybe
I've got an idea. Figure out how you get a dang defense on the field.
Yeah. And Jacksonville, Jacksonville has had plenty of strong defensive players throughout the years. I mean, it almost seems like the Marlins, where the Miami Marlins of baseball, where they develop these great players and then they ship them off to Boston or all across the country and let them be stars somewhere else. So, I mean, obviously Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell are two examples of that. It'd be nice to have them on the. Calais Campbell is not with the Jaguars anymore, correct? Or is he still?
I think he's with Baltimore.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, whether that's high salary cap or what, I mean, you're getting these great defensive players. Probably be pretty nice to have them on a team with a rookie quarterback. But that's just me.
All right, so now we switch from week 1 to a little bit of a week 2 preview, and your Dolphins have got a date with Josh Allen and the Bills, so potentially 2-0 division. My Jags are welcoming the Denver Broncos to Jacksonville this weekend. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. You've got another AFC showdown this weekend, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, we got Houston week 1, and then Von Miller and Von Miller and company next week. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, you definitely you definitely don't like to lose that week 1 going into Von Miller and the Broncos defense. That's for sure.
I'm just saying, I could think of easier defensive matchups than Von Miller.
Yeah, probably Houston, but
Oh no.
Sorry about that little dig, but as far as Buffalo goes, they didn't look great against Pittsburgh. We were talking a little bit before we started. That offensive line did Josh Allen no favors. I'd love to see it. Thank you, Pittsburgh, for hopefully showing us a blueprint, giving us a blueprint on how to beat the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, I am more confident now than I was probably in preseason or in the offseason about that week 2 matchup. I mean, Pittsburgh is a weird football team. I mean, obviously last year that I believe I know they were the last undefeated team. And then all of a sudden that team just fell apart at the seams and lost 5 straight football games. So Pittsburgh's a weird team. It's kind of hard to quite tell exactly what you're going to get from them. So it does seem like they're hopefully looking, for their case at least, looking a little bit more like the beginning of the season that they had last year as opposed to the end of it. But the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they're supposedly supposed to be one of the Super Bowl contenders for the AFC for the AFC this year. Didn't quite look like it yesterday. I hope they keep it up next week. I think Miami, like I said, has a lot to improve on from last week, but it's definitely got to be a little bit more promising in the eyes of Brian Flores, seeing Buffalo come into that game 0-1 and us coming in 1-0. So it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's a huge opportunity for the Miami Dolphins, to be honest. I mean, to go 2-0 to start this season with 2 division wins, 1 a road win against New England. I mean, it's all you can ask for, honestly. And I think the Dolphins are obviously they know the situation. They know going 2-0 to start the season against 2 division rivals would be a huge advantage and a huge step to securing a playoff division and a playoff position. And I mean, if they beat New England and Buffalo in week 2, sweep the Jets, I mean, that sounds like a AFC East title, at least the makings of one to me. So it's a big game. It's a huge game for Miami. It's a huge game for Buffalo too, because if they go 0-2, it's going to be a tough spot to come back from, especially with the division loss. But I'm excited for it. I think obviously the Miami Dolphins are probably going to be a little vengeful because of the absolute beatdown we received in Buffalo to finish the season last year. So, I mean, teams play harder when they've got something to play for. Obviously, I mean, we talked about and that goes across all sports. We talked about it with Denmark and the Euros. I mean, with Eriksson. I mean, I don't think most people anticipated Denmark to go as far in the Euros as they did, but they were playing for Christian Eriksen. Miami's playing to avenge that 57. I lost count of how many points Buffalo put up on us last year. So I think they're going to use a little bit of that to motivate themselves. Obviously a lot of the players are in the locker room are returning from last year, and with a blueprint of how to beat Buffalo, hopefully they can use that. Brian Flores can use that, and Miami goes 2-0 to start the year.
Yeah, so now we switch from our favorite teams that are around the league, and we're talking about some good and not so good performances yesterday. Good performances. Did anybody see Arizona's beatdown in the Tennessee Titans? 38-13. I'm like, I knew there'd be a shootout in Nashville. I just didn't think it'd only be one team scoring all the points. I thought it'd be both teams.
I know. I mean, I agree with you there. Those are two NFL teams, so I think a lot of teams see at least the Super Bowl contenders, maybe not necessarily Super Bowl favorites, but I mean, I had Tennessee as my Super Bowl pick, and credit to Arizona. I mean, they played a heck of a ball game on offense, on defense. You know, the Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins connection was on money all day long. Chandler Jones 5 individual sacks is ridiculous. I mean, Arizona just completely shut Tennessee down.
Yeah, and by the way, here's an interesting stat line from the game. I'm not sure we call Arizona's defense that great. Let me see if I can get this. Derrick Henry rushed 17 times for 58 yards.
That's crazy. I mean, he is the human wrecking ball, and to limit him to that short amount of yardage on the ground is just it's impressive from Arizona's perspective, to be honest with you.
By the way, you will not believe who led the Titans in receiving yards yesterday. You would not believe who led the Titans in receiving yards yesterday.
I know it wasn't Julio Jones because I have him on a fantasy team and he did not do much for me. Considering your question, I'm assuming it's probably not AJ Brown.
Nope.
It's not Jonnu Smith because he was catching passes from Mac Jones yesterday. Hit me with it.
You want a hint?
Yeah, go for it.
With the Indianapolis Colts.
I don't know.
Chester Rogers.
You got him on your fantasy team, Dylan? You start him in any of your leagues this week?
I actually, be honest, I played him in a showdown, in a Cardinal Titans showdown yesterday.
Oh, there you go. Hopefully you did pretty good in that
one. $200.
Nice. Look at you, Dylan. Well done. Good stuff there. Chester Rogers is your sleeper waiver wire pickup of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But speaking of bad performances like the Tennessee Titans,
I was just thinking. Speaking of Mr.
Rogers, that's a better segue. I like that. The Green Bay Packers. I mean, I don't know if they are allergic to the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium, or maybe Aaron Rodgers returned to the Green Bay Packers as a final middle finger to them, and he's just planning on self-sabotaging that team this year, because I don't know if I have ever seen the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback play as bad as they did yesterday.
That might have been the worst game I have ever seen Aaron Rodgers and the Packers play. They showed no energy, no effort, no heart, no skill, no talent. They did not want to be. I'm like, the Packers, remember the game was in Jacksonville, not New Orleans?
I have no words. I mean, I figured as long as Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, then they are going to be a strong football team. I don't know if this was just a fluke. I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers maybe ate some spoiled something for breakfast, or I don't know what's going on in Green Bay right now. But if they don't fix that quick, there is going to be a lot, because Green Bay Packers fans are passionate. And fortunately for them, they've had a lot of success over the years, and that passion has led to praise and happiness and support. But if their season looks anything like it did yesterday, those passionate Green Bay Packers fans are going to look like Eagles fans on Christmas. Wait a
minute. You mean there's throw cheese heads at Santa Claus?
Santa Claus, Aaron Rodgers, pick one, because you can't be losing 38-3 against Jameis Winston. I'm sorry. I mean, the man, I mean, credit to Jameis Winston. I guess he deserves it. I mean, you throw for 5 touchdowns. What was the stat line? 14 of 20, 148 yards. He didn't have too many yards, but 5 touchdown passes. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would have taken that stat line. So, I mean, credit to the Saints, but I mean, it's just a big fat L in Green Bay this weekend. That's for sure.
I mean, they were all losses, and they were all losses. Like I know Browns fans are upset, but you're not going to win in Arrowhead that much with Mahomes in September. I mean, Green Bay losing 38-3 yesterday, confused, befuddled, shocked, stupefied me.
I mean, they had 43 total rushing yards. AJ Dillon, 4 carries for 19 yards. Hill, I don't even know who that is, honestly. K Hill, 5 rushes for 14 yards. Aaron Jones, 5 rushes for 9 yards. And Randall Cobb, 1 rush for 1 yard. I mean, that Green Bay rushing attack, I mean, that Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon combo was supposed to be one of the nicest little two-back duos in the NFL, but you're putting up a combined 28 yards on 9 carries. I could have gotten more yards than that in a full game of football. I mean, that's I tell you what, I feel bad for any Packers fans out there. I've got a good buddy who's a Packers fan. I didn't even text him. I thought about messaging him, and I was like, you know what? He's been through enough today. I'm just gonna let this one be because I couldn't imagine being in their shoes right now.
I've got a good friend who's a huge Packer fan. I thought about tweeting her and saying you could have done better than Mr. Rogers, but maybe Mr. Rogers was answering like, how to play quarterback, not throwing it to the other team.
Yeah, I mean, he spent a little bit too much time on Jeopardy instead of studying the Saints defense, apparently, because that's not what you want to see if you're a Green Bay Packers fan.
I mean, get the Taylor Heineke, who did not even start the game for the Washington football team, outplayed Aaron Rodgers yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, you could pretty much pick a quarterback on any team in the league yesterday, win or loss, and they probably, I mean, maybe exception Matt Ryan, but yeah. I would take Trevor Lawrence's performance over Aaron Rodgers. At least he threw for 3 touchdowns.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers' QBR yesterday was 13.5. 13.5?
Yeah, that about sums it up, huh?
I'm just saying, on a 0 to 100, that would be like using a college terminology. What would a 13.5 out of 100 be?
That is an F minus. I mean, that is you need to go. They're doing sprints on Monday average.
By the way, Jameis Winston's QBR, and Jameis is not known as the most accurate quarterback. Jameis got a 92.5. Just saying. One got a 90. The non-accurate QB got a 92.5, and Rodgers got a 13.
I mean, they've got to find out what that problem is and fix it, because we've got an extra game this season. So if we got 17 games, if you play like that, we've won. You better get your stuff figured out, because it's going to be a long season if you can't get that figured out. I mean, fortunately for them, they've got the Detroit Lions next week. It's also a Monday night game, so they've got an extra day to prepare for them. Obviously, the Detroit Lions have been, I mean, to put it bluntly, the laughingstock of the NFL over the past history of the team. But hopefully they can figure that out, because it's a Dan Campbell Detroit Lions, and obviously we know they went 0-1, but it might not be as big of a pushover as they have been in the past, and Aaron Rodgers better be careful, because Dan Campbell might be biting his knees off if he's not too careful next week.
I'm just saying, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. Hey, Jamal Williams' revenge game next week. He might be looking forward to his old mates.
You're right. I mean, Detroit, I mean, they lost a 1-possession game against the 49ers, and a lot of people have the 49ers in the Super Bowl this year. Jamal Williams, I have been shipping him on fantasy for months now. He's been a guy I've been targeting in every single fantasy football league I can get him in. And next week I might start him over a couple of guys who might typically be in the starting position because, like you said, revenge game against the Packers with the way the Packers look this week. You heard it here first. Jamal Williams RB2 this week. Maybe RB2 with upside.
I think Swift and Jamal Williams were like two of the top running backs yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, they played a good game. Jamal Williams accumulated plenty of fantasy football points on my bench this week. So, obviously I kind of wish I would have seen that one coming. I'd been a fan of him, but I figured I might be using him a little bit later in the year, but props to the Lions. They stuck with a good 49ers team, and who knows, the way it looks, they might be favored against Green Bay next week.
I'm just saying, then talk about the NFC North going 0-4. I mean, 0-4 and 2. Well, I mean, Detroit didn't embarrass himself. I mean, Chicago, well, yeah, that's another story.
Yeah.
And Minnesota lost a heartbreaker in overtime to the Bengals.
Yeah. Hey, look, Jamar Chase can catch. How about that?
Hey,
Hey, there's a plus. Claps for Jamar Chase.
Alabama. How about LSU? How about Bayou Bengal, the Bayou Bengal?
Yeah, I think Cardinals. I think Bengals fans breathed this huge sigh of relief when they saw him running down that sideline and brought that pass in, because when you have a wide receiver that you draft in the top 10 picks of the first round, and he says that it's harder to catch the NFL football because it doesn't have the white stripes on the ball, can't make you feel too confident about the upcoming season. But props to Jamar Chase for being able to catch the football. I'm proud of him.
Yeah, just hope he can catch it every week, because the Bengals got themselves a good little receiving trio with Chase, T. Higgins, Mr. Boyd, and then Joe Mixon in the backfield.
Yeah, it's if that team can stay healthy, I mean, it seems like they're on the way up. That division it's a pretty tough division, but it's kind of up in the air. There's not really I don't think a huge favorite in that division. It's a good division, but anything can happen there. So who knows? I mean, if Cincinnati stays healthy and all those weapons keep performing, I mean, who's to say they can't challenge Baltimore or Pittsburgh or Cleveland for that division?
If the Cincinnati Bengals win the AFC North this year, I would do something crazy. The Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there's a bright future there for them, and I think this week was a nice start to get that season rolling.
So thanks for hopping on the podcast, Alex. We're glad you're back. And if you want to see next week's edition, hop on to the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me as always, Dylan. Fins up. We can't wait for week